Shalom, 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 beloved family and Gentiles. Today we're going to discuss some information about the rays. However, we're going to only discuss one ray in particular. Today we're going to discuss ray 3, the ray of active intelligence, because it is in the air. Copyright disclaimer. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, fair use is invoked for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute when an otherwise infringement may occur. Usages for educational purposes tips the balance in favor of fair use. As I stated before, today we're going to examine 3 of the rays. There are actually 15 or more, but the Gentiles generally, in the Psalms 83 nations, generally only talk about 7, and that's because of the 7 chakras, wheels, or spears. However, as we know, there's exoteric and esoteric information, and this is the same case with the spears. There's exoteric information about astrology, and there's esoteric and exoteric information about astronomy. Astrology deals with the physical, the person, and the changes, the earthly issues. However, the astronomy deals with the cosmos and everything that happens to the person, people regarding how things act in the cosmos. Unlike earthly issues, there's a lot of speaking, a lot of talking, a lot of babbling. However, when dealing with the cosmos, it's not so much about speaking as it is about the rays, the vibrations, and the frequencies. Some of the information today is going to be coming out of this book, The 7 Rays Made Visual. It's a really good esoteric book and a lot of wonderful information. But the ray we're going to look at is the yellow ray, which is actually the sun. And in our system, our sun now is white. I wasn't really prepared to go over this right now. Actually, I had planned to do something else. However, after the last video I did, I received a download, um, and that caught me off guard. And then when Big Levi the next day started talking about the intelligences, you know, I knew it was time to start bringing some of this information out. So we're going to get into just a little bit of the information because it will help if you guys do some research on your own, because this information, there's so much information regarding the 7 rays. The Psalms 83 nations put so much information in so many different books, and they split it up amongst themselves and they anglicized everything. So there's so many different, everything is called so many different names. It leads to the same thing, but because they anglicized the information and split the information up through all the nations, then when all of the nations started babbling or speaking a different language, then everything kind of got separated, distorted, twisted, perverted, whatever word you want to use. But initially started as our information. This is the information received by Enoch and Hermes. All of this information is about the cosmos. We have a lot of information about astronomy, about people, the materialism, the physical, and all these things, but we didn't receive any information about the cosmos. So we're going to focus on the third ray today, but I'm going to give you a little information about the rays. There are 7 rays. Ray 1 has been identified as the Lord of will or power. Ray 2 has been identified as the Lord of wisdom and love. Ray 3, the Lord of active intelligence. These 3 rays are the rays of aspect. And these 3 rays are about, they constitute the sum total of the entire divine manifestation. Information that we were never told anything, regarding this issue or told anything about the cosmos. These 3 rays are active in every form of life. Through the activity of these creative agencies of the Mighty One, every form is embedded with that inner evolutionary attribute, which must eventually sweep it into line with divine purposes and fulfill its destiny as a corporate part of the whole. So everything works together, but when we're looking at the rays, they work on frequency. And it's the difference between, we hear a lot about the Kundalini, okay? But the Kundalini is dealing with the earth seed and some of the star seeds. But we've never heard about the Kunda ray. The Kunda ray is talking about the cosmos, and this is dealing with sound and vibration frequency. So you're talking earth seeds, star seeds. And when you get this light body, there's so much that goes into it that we just don't have a clue about. So the light body is the body where we can do, we've reached the Ansoff, divinity. We're transforming and transmuting into the light, and every light is different on the color spectrum, and every duty is different based on the light. So in essence, the ray is a type of energy. So the other 4 rays are called the rays of attribute. So you know what an attribute is. So ray 4 is the ray of harmony through conflict. Ray 5 is the Lord of concrete knowledge and science. Ray 6 is the Lord of devotion and idealism. And Ray 7 is the Lord of ceremonial order or magic. What's on the earth now? See, all of these rays, they work together based on the frequency and what ray comes to the earth. See, we've been told that magic was and witchcraft and voodoo was evil and blah, 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 blah. However, what we do is not based on our actions alone. They're based on the spirit that has been put within us. And these 4 rays of attribute come from ray 3, mother, the earthly mother, the Ruach. All of the rays work in a different way, but they all work in unison with all of the planets. But today we're going to focus on ray 3, which is the ray of aspect, and it's the ray for active intelligence, because this is what we're doing now. So ray 4 is orange, ray 5 is green, ray 6 is purple, and ray 7 is indigo. Sound familiar? These rays are supposed to line up to the chakras, okay? But it's not just that these 7 rays work with the chakras, the red at the root and so on and so forth, going to the purple. That's not how that works. All of the rays can affect each sphere within the body because they all have a different purpose. So today we're going to see how the spheres work with the Divine Mother. So today I noticed that the rays on the earth are pink, predominantly yellow, and definitely white. So if you're wondering exactly how this works, well, the 7 ray energies reach our sun by way of the 12 constellations of the zodiac. Each ray transmits its energy through 3 constellations and reach our Earth primarily through one of the 7 sacred planets. I've been listening to this one station lately, and the guy kept asking the question, well, how do they know that the particles or the solar rays are going to come to the Earth after 7 days, in 7 days, when they're not even earth facing? We don't see this and we don't see that. Well, the sun that they've been showing everyone is not our sun, it's the galactic sun. That's the reason that it takes 7 days or 10 days or 8 days or what have you to reach our planet, because everything works on a frequency and it goes through our sun before it hits the planet, unless it's the solar rays. The solar rays comes, if there is a way for it to come through the earth through a crack or crevice or anything, it's going to do that. It comes right through. But when we're talking about the energies from the planets, they come through our sun. So, of course, we know that the Gentiles, put themselves in everything. So, we're just going to, take this for whatever it's worth, okay? But the Gentiles said about the third ray, the ray of active intelligence, is that the personality aspect is in every human being that the soul created and uses to experience and express its essential divinity. Now, this is written in such a way that if you're not really aware of what's going on the earth today, that you're going to miss some things about this, because if you notice, it does state that it deals with every human being that the soul created. So we're gonna go with this because this is all about the soul, and the soul ray. So we're gonna keep reading. This ray lord works in close cooperation with the lord of the second ray, because he constitutes the active building force that starts the work of construction and eventually materializes the idea and purpose of the mighty one. See, the second ray is the Hamashiach. The first ray is the mighty one. And then this third ray is the earthly mother, the holy Ruach. So they all work together. Yet these three rays of will, love and wisdom, and active intelligence are as much a unity as is a human being who conceives an idea, uses his mind and brain to bring the idea into manifestation, and employs hands and all his natural forces to perfect the idea. These three major rays correspond in the human being to the monad, soul, and personality. But see, we're not dealing with the personality anymore because the personality is at the level of the astrology, and the rays work through the constellations using the astrology based on the behaviors. And that's what the Psalms 83 nations gave us, only the person, how it affects the personality, how the rays affect the personality. The third ray energy coming from the Great Bear reaches our sun through the zodiacal triangle of Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. Its body of expression is primarily the planet Saturn, Shabbatai. Together, they provide humanity through the medium of matter with a vast field of experiment and experience. When you start talking about the experimenting and the experience dealing with the active intelligence, that's going to take you right over into the seventh ray of magic. So we're going to talk about that in another video. At this time, Cancer is a controlling factor as its energy causes the mass movement towards liberty, release, and light that is so dominant today. Now, this book was copyrighted in 1986, so I'm assuming that's what was going on the planet at that time. So in this picture on page 82, it shows the 7 force centers in the vital or etheric body. So that you notice that they call it them centers as because they are the centers on the Cathar grid, on the Cathar grid, okay? So based on, if you notice where ray 3 is actually the throat center. That's your active intelligence. That's where all of that comes from. And here you notice it's not just one color. That all, in fact, look at all of the centers. You notice that none of them are one color because they don't work based on one ray, one basic color. The rays can affect all parts of the body. It just depends on which ray it is and what's happening at the time. I'm telling you, the Mighty One has put a great work on the earth, in this system, in the cosmos, in the universe, because it's something that man cannot change. They can't tamper with it because he himself put it together. And these are the things that Enoch was told when he wrote all of those books that we don't have. All of that knowledge was spread out in all of these books, and other people put their names on them that don't even understand this information. So, underlying the human body in all its parts is the vital or etheric body with its 7 major points of focus. All 7 are perpetually rotating wheels into which the light streams enter that come from and through our solar and planetary entities. These 7 whirlpools of forces swirl etheric, astral, and mental matter into activity. Their development to maximum capacity takes a long time. Well, I'm sure it does, especially when you have people that are poisoning the food so that the system doesn't work the way it's supposed to work. So it says today in the Aryan race, wonder who those people are. The centers in a person's etheric body awaken in three major stages. When the throat center awakens and much of the lower energies is shifted into the throat activity. Then the closed bud opens into that of the open lotus. See, things start growing and sprouting and vibrating. We're going to discuss the lotus later on, but right now I'm just trying to give some information about this third ray of the body and how everything works together because it's a lot of information. Now, I want to look at what is meant by a light body. We always hear, about the light, the star seeds and the light body, the Zohar body, and all these things. But what exactly does it mean? Because in the Bible, it doesn't really talk about the light or the light body. It kind of alludes to it, but it doesn't really give a lot of information about it. We're going to go into this book here and see what is light body. So this book was copyrighted in 1990. And the reason I said that is because when they started talking about light body, they actually started talking about ascension. And it says, as you probably know, this planet is in a state of ascension. Well, in 1990, I had no clue what ascension was or the planet was in ascension or anything else. But they had this knowledge and they've had it. We didn't. They put it in the books, but when you're stuck into believing something one way and that you're in a certain frame of mind, this doesn't pop up in that frame of mind. So it says its frequency is rising at a very rapid rate and it's losing density. Matter, as you know it from the third dimension, is densification of light. So dense is something that's kind of thick. Well, it's closely compacted in substance. Therefore, densification means that something is becoming more dense. Okay? So the densification of light means that the light is becoming more dense. That densification is beginning to drop off, and the vibratory rate of each and every one of you, as well as the entire planet, is rising. It's a pretty exciting process. Well, no, that's not quite true. Each and every one, no. When you have a process of densification, such as that occurring in your universe, you reach a point when it's gone to maximum separation from the purest forms of light. At that point of maximum separation, a shift occurs, and the planet begins to reverse itself and start on what we would term a homeward route, i.e., back to the one point. See, we're going back to where things started from. Gentiles know that. They have this knowledge. They know exactly what's happening, but they're trying to slow it down and they're trying to stop it, and there's nothing that they can do. They already know that. They've had this knowledge for a while. At this point, the author says there are 7 to 8 million light workers on the planet at this point, what some have called planetary transition teams. If there were that many light workers on the planet, there wouldn't be wickedness here. Okay, so we already know that's not true. Each one of you is a light worker. Really? You are here with special purposes, special skills, and special delights. Many of you are specialists in assisting planets in ascension, have done it thousands and thousands of times, many of you. The author goes on to say that each time a planet ascends, it's a unique process, the process of reunification. And the joy of reunification is expressed differently depending on how the game was played. This game was one of the greatest possible separation from spirit you could have. It was very successful, and that's absolutely true. See, they know. They know it was a complete separation from spirit. That's why we have been in a dissension process for a long time. The planet has descended into utter chaos, and it's not even over yet. But the game as you know it is now changing, and it began its process of changing officially in March 1988. I don't believe a lot in these dates that they give, but this may be on point because I remember Big Judah did a video a couple years ago or a year ago that's mentioned the fact that the Mighty One has been working to bring everything to fruition. But the Psalms 83 nations have been fighting it along the way, every step. I'll have to go back and watch that video. At that point, what we call activation to first level light body occurred for most light workers. Not all, but most. That was like a little bell going off in your DNA structure that said, Yahoo, time to go home. They always talk about time to go home, that they're going to be ascended, the rapture. Christians, it's the Christians not knowing what they're talking about. You got 7 million people on the planet with a light body, and all hell is breaking loose and has been. Wickedness. The scripture says that, how does that scripture go? The earth is given into the hands of the wicked, but yet you have 7 million light workers on the earth. Come on out of here. We're going to go briefly into this book, Stones of the Seven Rays. During my last video, after my last video, I got a download about the 12 tribes. And it kind of caught me off guard, especially with the stones, because I haven't really looked at that a lot other than the book that I shared with Big Judah, God's Amazing Star Secret. And it has a lot of, it has all of the stones in there, you know, and about the constellations. I mean, just a lot of information, really good information. So when I received this download, I was a little bit surprised. So based on this book, The Living Aspects of Stones, Hinduism gives the name prana pratishtha to the ritual that consists of a priest, Brahma, breathing his own vital force prana into stones or any other object for the purpose of giving it life. According to what I've learned during reading, Brahma is an aspect of the third ray. Brother Brother Main has a lot of information about Brahma in his video. So if you want to know more, check out his website. The priest then invokes the presence of a powerful diva who henceforth uses this prana and thereby attaches itself to the object, much the way the soul of a human being remains in the body thanks to the etheric body. Okay, so a diva is not a god. A diva is but rather shining beings that emanate from the Mighty One. So diva means to shine. Has nothing to do about, um, wickedness or witchcraft or all of this. Now, based on something, a show I used to watch years ago, that there were beings in objects, in rocks or some clothing piece or something like that. But that was based on uh, it was all based on wickedness. Now we all know that the Gentiles like to turn things around and make good evil and evil good. So we got to keep that in mind. But all of these, all of these beings or all of these rocks or divas were lights in these objects. So this is what Brahma did. The object which becomes conscious by virtue of this ritual may be a stone, a statue, a temple structure, a yantra, which is a geometrical figure, a lingam, a cosmic egg, which we know that the Druids had something to do with the cosmic egg. A Christian icon, we know what that means. That's at a very low frequency, low level, because at the time, because the earth has been in such a low frequency and there's been so much wickedness on the earth, the only thing that these people have been able to use are these low level entities because the frequency was 7.83. The object to be so consecrated may also be the body of a person. When a spiritual entity uses the body of a disciple in this way with his or her consent, it is called overshadowing. If the entity is unfortunately one of a lower nature, such as a dead person or an elemental, we use the term possession. Now the truth is coming to light. Anybody see Michael Jackson walking around lately? Or who's that one guy, nothing but a hound dog, Elvis Presley? They used to say that they saw these dead people walking around all the time. So here you go. So I was trying to figure out why, did I get this download about the 12 tribes? And this book gave me a bit of information that I wasn't looking for and didn't even know was in this book, especially after I shared the book God's Amazing Star Secret with Big Judah. So then in this book it says on the esoteric plane, the 12 stones and tribes are veiled expressions of the 12 constellations of the zodiac, the nourishment of the soul of humanity, symbolized by the diversified groups of a future unified people. Every human being on earth is therefore a gem in formation, in the same way that the earthly Jerusalem is destined to become the heavenly Jerusalem. What? We have an earthly Jerusalem here right now, okay? And this is everybody, a future unified people. So I guess it does kind of relate to every human being but they told us we aren't human beings, that we were 3/5 of people. So I mean, is it talking about them or us? I'm not really sure who this is talking about because they made it a point of trying to completely destroy us as a people, our emotional, mental, psychological frame of thinking. So when they're talking about human beings, they said that we were 3/5 of a human. So this is the reason why God prophesies that when he comes to earth later, he will take every precious he would take these precious stones, men who have become saints, along with many other better than they, from that place which eye hath not seen, nor ear heard, neither hath it come up into the heart of man, until the like cometh to pass unto the world. And the just shall have no need for the light of the sun, nor the shining of the moon, for the light of precious stones shall be their light. So now this is what got me, okay? So when the Hamashiach said to Peter in Matthew 16:18, that thou art Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against this. Okay, so we know it wasn't talking about some random building. The Hamashiach was talking about Peter, that he was the stone, that he was the rock. So check this out. We know that when that the stone is the spiritual body, that Peter was the rock talking about. So when the 12 tribes are in the 12 tribes we know are in the constellations, and they all have a different color stone. So how does that stone relate to the spiritual body? We're going to cover those because this book that I have here, The Stones of the Seven Rays, it actually has the esoteric color or hue of the rays. I mean, it's Gentiles, the Psalms 83 nations, they mixed all the stones up, the colors of the stones. So were the stones the light bodies, the color of the constellations regarding the tribes? I mean, how does that work? We're going to look at that. But today we're going to stay focused on the third ray. Okay, so now we're going to go into this book, The Seven Rays of Life, because I want to talk just a little bit about how the rays work, okay? And they all work according to this, but they all have different functions, all right? The Psalms 83 nations, they're aware that the ray of active intelligence is a spiritual ray, but they have not had access to this ray, and they know it. In fact, they've actually pointed out in this book that the ray, the energy of active intelligence, the human intelligence has served them on the side of materialism and not on the side of spiritual values. So they know that everything about this ray is spiritual, but they know that they haven't had access to this ray, and they don't have a master regarding this ray either. The Psalms 83 nations say that the third ray of active intelligence has been an objective manifestation since 1425 AD and will remain in incarnation throughout the Aquarian age. Its cycles are the longest of any of the ray's cycles. However, within these major cycles, there are periods of intensified activity, which are like the beat or pulsation of the heart, and these periods last approximately 3,000 years. They say that Ray 3 has the longest incarnation period, and it's been incarnation since 1875. It occultly completed its outgoing and began to curve upon itself and thus return. So they say that it had left, it had finished whatever it was going to do, its effects on the earth, and then it did a complete curve within itself, and it came back. So, and they know that it carries with it radioactive effects and or plasmatic effects. So those that powers that be that are in the know, they're afraid of this ray because they don't know how it's going to affect the earth. They have some idea because they have our books, but they don't completely understand this spiritual ray. It is the ray of active intelligence which dominates man at this time. Human beings are largely centered in their personalities. They are egocentric in the terminology of the psychologists, which recognizes the integrating principle of the ego in many cases, but does not yet recognize the overshadowing ego or soul, except under such a vague term as the superconscious. We have, therefore, humanity engrossed by a tremendous activity and demonstrating everywhere a vital, discriminating, and intellectual interest in all types of phenomena. This tendency to be active will go on increasing and intensifying until the Aryan race will emerge into the coming major root race, for which we have as yet no name, though we recognize that in that race, the intellect will serve the intuition. Human activity is now regarded as having reached an incredible speed and intensity of vibration, yet from the angle of the world knowers, it is only just beginning to express itself and is relatively feeble as yet. So they don't know what's going to happen. They're aware that there's going to be a transmutation or transformation, but they don't fully understand the enormity of what's coming to this earth. So, since the Psalms 83 nations have not been able to experience the spirituality because the dove wasn't here, they have spent their time attacking us spiritually because they've been poisoning the food because they're trying to find a way to shut down this spiritual activity because they don't understand it. They can't relate to it. So poisoning the food, the drugs and all these things, the depression, the fear, the low level frequency inducers is what they've been using. So let's take a brief look at how the rays function in the cosmos and in the body. So because today, November 30th, the predominantly yellow and white ray is here, and then the pink ray is here. So I'm gonna take a look at the yellow ray and how the rays actually come to the earth. Okay, so they transcend through the star or the great bear, and then they transmute that energy through the three of the constellations to form like a triangle, which is the reason that people don't really understand, can't really grasp the rays and how they function, because a lot of them cannot come directly to the earth because they're so powerful. And a lot of people would be wiped out from the energies, the forces that come through the rays. So there's this transcending, transmuting, transforming, and transfiguring effect, that everything is transfigured once the rays get to the earth. So the three constellations for the third ray is Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. So the yellow energy will come through those three planets, and each planet has its own function, energy, or frequency according to the ray. Then it comes through the sun, the galactic sun, and it transforms that ray. And once it transforms that ray, it goes to each one of the the planets. See, it goes to the constellations first, the 12 constellations first, then it comes to the sun. And when it comes to the sun, it transforms, and then it goes throughout the planets. And this is how all of the rays work. So once they go through the planets, there's Gentiles have named 7 sacred planets, which are, they say, is Uranus, Jupiter, Venus, Vulcan, which we haven't heard about, but I'll go through the Vulcan planet later on. But this is one of the planets that's being veiled by either the sun or the moon. And I think it's the sun, since the sun transforms that planet. And then Mercury and Saturn. Okay, so those are the 7 sacred planets, and then it's transfigured through the 4 non-sacred planets. And they say that Mars, Pluto, and the moon and our sun are four non-sacred planets. So once it goes through the transcending, the transmitting, the transforming, and the transfiguring, then it comes to the earth. So whatever happens on the earth, is based on the color of that ray. So we're going to look at the yellow ray and see what happens with the yellow ray, since that's the ray that's on the earth today, that came to the earth today. So we're going to look at this book, The Occult Anatomy of Man and Occult Masonry. So the primary reason that the Gentiles or the Psalm 83 nations don't fully understand the information regarding the functions of the rays is because the rays target the body, the DNA. I believe it's basically the DNA. So they have an idea of how things work, but they don't fully understand what happens once the rays come to the earth and how it affects the people. So the yellow ray can basically attack any part of the body, because but those attacks can be positive or negative. It depends on the DNA and the person. What that body frequency or vibration is how the ray will affect the body once it touches the body. So the yellow ray is regarded as the color of the soul. Okay. For this reason, the Buddhas and world saviors, I don't know any world saviors, are usually symbolized as being surrounded with a gold nimbus or halo. This light is the yellow robe, also the light bearing witness to the darkness of which St. John wrote. This light flooding through the third ventricle represents the Shekinah of the Jews, which hovers over the mercy seat as a pact between the Mighty One and man. Yellow is a vitalizer, a life giver. So although the Psalms 83 nations know this about the yellow ray, they haven't experienced it because everything that's coming upon the earth now is new for them because of their lack of spirituality. So the third ventricle sits in the middle of the brain, is a vaulted chamber of initiation. Around it sits 3 kings, 3 great centers of life and power: the pituitary body, the pineal gland, and the optic thalamus. In this chamber also is a small gritty seed, which is undoubtedly connected with the king's coffer in the Great Pyramid. The third ventricle is supposed to be the seat of the soul, And the aura radiating from the heads of saints and sages is said to represent the golden glow pouring from this third ventricle. How about that? All of this knowledge out there, and they've not told us anything about our body, regarding the functions of it. But all of this occult or hidden knowledge is out there, and it affects us. It has everything to do with us. All of these things that are coming through these 12 constellations and hitting the earth, and now we're finding out about it. This is the increase, the new knowledge. So we know that the yellow ray has a positive magnetic vibration, um, that affects the nerves, and it influences the higher mind and soul. The solar plexus is the organizing brain of the nervous system, and the yellow ray cleanses and purifies the whole system. Let's look at some of the negative effects of this ray. Because the third ray energy is spiritual, active intelligence, and it's upon the earth right now. And the yellow ray, they were trying to say that the yellow ray had been here in the past, so it had made, its pass, through the earth, and and that was that. But that's not how it works. All the rays are here now. I don't know if it was they didn't expect it, they weren't aware of it. I don't fully understand why they say, the yellow ray came and went. But the yellow ray we know is here because it affects the throat, your thyroid, your vocal cord, and your lungs. And so there have been reports in the news about, things happening with the lungs, the throat, medical issues that are happening because the body is under attack. The spirituality is, and based on this ray, because the third ray of aspect is active intelligence and it's a divine mother, then if you don't have that spirituality, and based on your frequency, what you're vibrating, how your body is vibrating, your body can come under attack. There's no doubt about that. Later on, we're going to look at the crown, and kind of uncover some issues about what happened, during the first plague of the CV, and show how that ray actually came to, um, through the will and power of ray 1, and how it actually affected the body. So we're going to look at that a little bit later. So based on the fact that the yellow ray deals with the jewels, your jewels, they actually call it, say that it's the jewel color is yellow, green, or emerald. So all of this has to do with what's going on in your body, and the yellow can attack any of the chakras. I mean, it's not just one, but based on the rays, it may be predominantly, one center in particular that it focuses on, but the rays can attack any part of the body, any of the centers. I'm going to close with this little piece of information that Psalms 83 Nations had, that we're just now learning about. And it says, from the esoteric aspect, the white light, spiritual sun. See, this is the sun where we are now. This is the reason that the sun went from yellow. We had a yellow sun, and now we have a white sun. So they know that the white sun is the spiritual sun. So from the esoteric aspect, the white light, the spiritual sun, enters the consciousness of the soul through the aura and is diffused into its 7 component colors, each one infusing the appropriate soul center with power and vitality. But it's not just power and vitality. See, they gave the positive side of it, but once we realize that there's a polarity in everything, it's not just vitality and power, it can be weakness and the digression or depression, loss of energy. So that white sun, that spiritual sun, the effect of the sun that we have in the earth now and how it works with these rays deals mostly with your vibration, your frequency. So if you can't keep up with what's happening on the earth when the rays come through or during the ascension process, the changes that are coming upon the earth, then the ray itself is going to have a negative effect, because if you are vibrating wickedness, you're not going to make it under a spiritual sun. There's no way. So we have to keep the frequency high, and we have to, make sure we know ourselves, know thyself, know where we are in this spiritual walk, because what's happening on the earth, even though they're trying to make it seem like this sun simulators and all this garbage, that's exactly what it is, garbage. Our people need to stay away from that nonsense and don't get involved with the Gentile buffoonery and what they're putting out there, because there's no getting away from this spiritual sun. So all praises to the Mighty One, in great gratitude to the earthly mother for her spiritual son. And thanks to our brother, the beloved Hamashiach. Shalom, 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 light bearers and Gentiles.